Please be seated. Sitting in my living room facing the front window of our house is my grandfather's wooden desk. I walk past it every day when I leave the house and when I return. And when I sit there, I imagine him sitting there, working and studying, just as I am. On it and in it are various objects, large and small, that remind me of him. On the desk rests a small box of his that still contains items that signal his attention to his dapper appearance. And if you see the photo up here, you'll notice his dapper appearance as you come forward. He dressed nicely. He made good use of the ascot. He had a well-trimmed mustache, slick back hair. And so in that little box, there are little tabs for the collars of his shirts. And there are cufflinks that he would wear, fancy cufflinks for going out. He was also an inventor. His day job was running a business that made and distributed boxes. But he loved to tinker, and he would always come up with interesting things. One of his inventions was a kind of tape. This was before Post-it notes existed. This was a kind of tape that you could put on something, you could stick something to it, and then you could pull it off, and you could reuse it, and it wouldn't leave any mark or any mar on the wall. This had a future, but unfortunately it did not have a distributor, so. But there's a little bit of that tape stuck inside that desk. And on top of the desk is a small dog figurine that reminds us of the pets that he kept and loved. There's nothing liturgical or religious about this desk and its contents, and it's easy to look right past it because it's just there every day. But it reminds me of a kind of accidental ofrenda, a place where I've gathered things that remind me of my grandfather in order to keep alive his memory. Today, we celebrate Dia de los Muertos, a much more intentional, seasonal, liturgical, and religious celebration that likewise keeps the memories of our ancestors alive. It has its history in the indigenous religions and cultures of Central and South America, especially among the Aztecs in Mexico. Their ways of honoring and communing with ancestors found overlap with All Saints and All Souls Day after the arrival of Christianity. And now the celebration of Dia de los Muertos is widespread throughout Central and South America, as well as in the United States. We often affirm that grace perfects nature rather than destroying it. God does not swoop in and wipe away our human ways of being and doing in order to save us. Rather, God takes all that is good in us and elevates and heals it by grace. Likewise, grace perfects and elevates culture. Trusting that the Logos that ordered all creation is present everywhere, we should not be surprised to find fingerprints of the Creator in all cultures. This is why Christianity has been able to incorporate aspects of other cultural and religious traditions as it has spread around the globe. At its best, instead of destroying a culture, Christianity finds and partners with the ways that that culture already witnesses to the truth, the goodness, and the beauty of God. And so we have Dia de los Muertos as a celebration that links indigenous rituals with the Christian story. This morning, I want to reflect on how this celebration can speak a word of hope and good news on this day before the election. We are all surely feeling the tension and apprehension of this moment. So the question is, how can communing with the dead provide an antidote to the fear and anxiety we feel today? First, Dia de los Muertos invites us to think about death in a way that releases its power over us. Fear and death are closely linked in Scripture. In fact, the first time fear is mentioned is in Genesis 3. After Adam and Eve eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and they hear God walking in the garden, and they remember that God said that if they ate of this fruit, they would die, at that point, we are told for the first time that the human beings experienced fear. Fear enters the story when death enters the story. Death is our most primal fear, and all other fears point in one way or another to this truth. So in a time when fear is used to coerce, manipulate, and terrorize people, we can find strength in facing death head on and naming the fact that death is not the end. In fact, in the celebration of Dia de los Muertos, death in the form of highly beautifully decorated skeletons and skulls becomes something beautiful and playful. To welcome Sister Death, as St. Francis called her, is a refusal to let fear control us. Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians that death has been swallowed up in victory. And he asks, "Where, O death, is your sting?" To turn death into an opportunity to celebrate life, as we do on this day, is to remove its sting and its ability to control us through fear. Second, Dia de los Muertos invites us to see mortality as a source of wisdom and inspiration. There's a long Christian tradition of memento mori, the intentional remembrance of death. You'll see in Christian art from the Middle Ages up through the 19th century that there will often be a skull or an hourglass representing mortality. And these are intended to keep us humble and to remind us that life is short. In his rules, St. Benedict wrote, "Keep death daily before your eyes." Right? The implication was that somehow keeping an awareness of death would help us live our lives better. In his song, "If We Were Vampires," the singer-songwriter Jason Isbell sings this: "If we were vampires and death was a joke, we'd go out on the sidewalk and smoke, laugh at all the lovers and their plans. I wouldn't feel the need to hold your hand. Maybe time running out is a gift. I'll work hard till the end of my shift and give you every second I can find and hope it isn't me who's left behind." In an interview, Isbell said this about the song: "If we had a permanent time on earth, we wouldn't have the motivation to pursue anything. Time is a limited commodity, and if it weren't, I'm not sure we would work up the courage to love anybody or to make art. If you have limitless time, you can always say, 'I'll say that tomorrow.' I don't need to do that today." Keeping death before our eyes can motivate and inspire us to love, create, and do the good because time is short. Third, Dia de los Muertos invites us to feel the strength and solidarity of the great cloud of witnesses who are our ancestors. Hebrews 12 tells us that we are surrounded by this great cloud of witnesses who will help us run with perseverance the race that is set before us. When we invite our ancestors to visit us and be with us, when we remember them from their favorite foods to their hardest struggles, we invite them to gather around and be part of that great cloud for us. In times like this, we need to remember the endurance, the courage, the creativity, and the love of those who've gone before us. And we need to know and feel their love for us, their pride in us, their hope for us. My grandfather's family fled Russia during the pogroms at the turn of the 20th century. They were Jews who could no longer be safe in their home. So they came to America and settled in St. Paul, Minnesota. They fled persecution and started a new life that made my life possible. And when I remember them and celebrate them, their life flows through me and strengthens me. Fourth. Yes, fourth. Please don't tell our preaching professor that I exceeded the 3 points per sermon limit. It's just good she's on sabbatical, you know. preach all those 4-point sermons while she's on sabbatical. Fourth and finally, Dia de los Muertos invites us to find joy in the face of sorrow. The beauty of the ofrenda, the smells, the communal work in setting up the altar are all invitations to joy, to celebrate those who have gone before, to forgive their shortcomings and give thanks for their gifts, however great or small they were. Every life can be remembered with joy as having something to offer, even if it was mixed, and it is usually mixed, with troubles and hurts and bad choices. On this day, as we invite the dead to be present and celebrate with us, we do so knowing that the very act of celebrating is an act of resistance. And celebrating a tradition that is a gift of an immigrant culture is an act of resistance. But fundamentally, the point of the celebration is not that we are resisting, but that we are standing together in the face of death with our ancestors enveloping us in their witnessing cloud and daring to be one people in love and joy. To commune with the dead in a moment like this is to proclaim and bear witness that death is not the last word, that those who have gone before us still stand alongside us, that their love does not end, that their courage and witness and solace and strength for us is here even now, even today. Thanks be to God.